Hi everyone, my name is Eva. I'm an executive wellness consultant and I'm back with two herbal recommendations and a story from the Bible. I have about 6 or 7 books that I will be recommending through the week along with stories from the Bible. So look for those coming up this week. What else? I was debating whether or not to share them all at once tonight, but I feel I want to hold off on that for the moment. And I think that's it. So let's get straight into this. I'm sharing this straight from the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Healing Remedies. And this is the cherry balm. This is what it looks like. Oh my gosh, I just misplaced the section. Oh, I have it here tagged. Perfect. This is what it looks like. Cherry plum. Yeah, cherry plum. And I guess this herb or flower has us something to look forward to. The spring that's coming right around the corner in 8 weeks. Before you know it, it will be here. This is just a flower that I opened to, a page that I opened to in the book tonight, so that's why I'm reading it to you. So it's cherry plum is a small tree with a red or yellow fruit. Cherry plum is often grown as hedging and windbreaks. It flowers from early spring with delicate pale pink flowers. Sorry, I just have to move my heater because it's a little too close to my leg and it's burning me. Sorry about that. Okay, that's better. Properties are encourages to let go of fear, helps to regain control of emotions. Cherry plum, the uses are for fear of letting go or of losing control. The fearful thoughts may be of suicidal, compulsive, or destructive nature. This mental pain and turmoil may happen during a period of great emotional or physical change when the person is worn and stressed. This remedy is also useful for uncontrolled tantrums in children when they are frightened by their own loss of temper. Cherry plum restores control and trust of the mind and emotions. The notes and dosages, it says the wild cherry plum is in flower almost before the arrival of spring. Oh, the arrival just before spring. Flowering twigs are used for the remedy. Prepare them using the boiling method on page 57, which the recipe for that is to boil the flour for about 30 minutes and then drink it as normal. Okay, the next one is, let me look up the exact pronunciation. For this next flower. Centauri. This is what it looks like. Centauri. It's really pretty, huh? So it's a flower. It is a small pink flower of chalky soil. Centauri is named after a centaur in Greek mythology who used it to cure himself from a poisoned arrow wound. I've got my hair clips back again, as you can see. I had a dream about pearls on me the other night, so I'm wearing them again. The properties strengthens willpower, aids decision making, which is really great. And then Centauris for people who have an excessive desire to please and a willingness to serve. They can be taken for granted and exploited. This leads to frustration, loss of self-control. Centauri helps balance the desire to serve by strengthening our willpower and appreciation of ourselves. It may help the weaker partner in a codependent relationship. Notes and dosage. Centauri grows more readily in wild than in cultivation. Prepare flowers during the sun method. On page 56, again, that is the same recipe where you boil the flour for 30 minutes and then you wait till it cools off and drink it as normal. So those are the 2 flowers for tonight. I may or may not reveal the books because they're really kind of awesome. I've had them for a while, depending on how long this next story is. This time around, I chose this story. There's a lot of stories in this Bible that we'll go through, but I felt like this one was the most appropriate for tonight. Ooh, this is a good one. So it has a whole story on Rome. Let me tag this completely so that I know to share this maybe even tomorrow. I'll have this one ready for you. And then Herod was another one that was popping out at me all night. I don't want to read too much into that because it's really long. So we'll get into that later this week. It popped up twice. So that means that message really wants to get out on who the heck was Herod and why was he important during this era. And I don't know why he's not coming up here. As I'm flipping through the pages, maybe here he is. So Herod's temple. And there was another section on him, which I'll find at a different, oh, here it is. Found the other section. Trying to look for my post-it notes. Here they are hiding behind my bottled water. I bought this at Target. It's a great size. Has initials SM. I don't know what that's for, but I love the color because It reminds me of my favorite influencer. Her name is Natasha Ocean. Okay. So this is a more lighthearted story. And apparently it's popular. And I did look it up. And it's also been on that show, The Chosen One, I guess it's called. Let me see if I can find the name of the actor that's in it. Jonathan Rumi. He's been everywhere, and he's also on that Hallow app. He's actually been to Boston. He was here last October or September at the church at Seaport. That's a really nice church. It's not as big as I would imagine from the inside. I have taken pictures on the inside, and they have Mary off to the side on the left with candles. It's really beautiful. But I would have imagined that it was bigger, although it's more I would say more intimate, more I'm forgetting the right word to use. I guess you could say it's more intimate. It's not as huge and cathedral as you would think it is in Seaport. It's wooden on the outside. And it's a beautiful church, so it might be worth swinging by and visiting one day. They've really done a really nice job in the Seaport area, and I've noticed a lot of changes around here. So it might be a good idea to visit if you're up to it. And if you can during the winter, if you're brave enough to come. I remember traveling in February. I don't recommend it very much because coming back from Portugal 3 years ago, maybe it was 4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago. Can't believe it's been 4 years. And it was really scary landing because the wind in Boston is fierce. And if you're not from around here and you're not used to it, it's scary because the plane will sometimes land sideways. Luckily, our plane still stayed on the track, although it was very windy, super windy, and it was very scary, but we managed. And I did get to go to Portugal for a few days, and it was beautiful, but it's not my thing. I thought Hawaii was more beautiful. I really loved my time in Hawaii. I really felt that I connected with the people there. They had the locals and then people from other places. And I've seen other influencers who have gone there recently. And, so it's a magical place. And they've got volcanoes and they've got waterfalls. And so it's definitely a place to visit again in the future. And some people live there. I would recommend visiting. I absolutely loved my my plane ride there from Boston here to Hawaii. It was, I think, 11-hour ride, and the staff on there, it was the Hawaiian airline. Really beautiful, super kind people. I remember my flight attendant came over to ask me how I was doing a few times, and she offered me water. It was just really super. I really loved the service, and she really reminded me of the Filipino people. I guess Guatemalans are like that too. They're really very hospitable and want to know if you're doing well or if there's anything that they can do to make you feel comfortable. And I always connect with people like that. I have a friend from Singapore. Her name is Christina Moore Lavar. She's half Filipino and her father's from Switzerland. She's got green eyes, and she's got these beautiful Filipino features. She actually does look a little bit like me that I see. She's very kind-hearted. She reminds me of my mother. She wears her heart on her sleeve, and she's got 2 nonprofit organizations right now. I didn't mean to bring her up, but I absolutely find her to be super inspiring. Just look her up on LinkedIn. She's very personable, and she's doing a lot for the planet. And she's a businesswoman, and she's into investing. And I would definitely try to connect with her. She's a good soul. And again, her name is Christina Moore Lavar. And so let me just get into this story here from the Bible that I chose for tonight. Apparently, it's in 3 different sections. It's really interesting because they don't reveal who this person is that anoints Jesus right before he's crucified. But Jesus actually does name her as being Mary. So it could have been any Mary. I guess there's Marys of all different names that appear throughout the world, but he just named her Mary. I'm lucky. I have, in Spanish, the name is Maria. My name is Maria. My middle name is Maria. And my grandmother named me, who was super religious, and almost really grew up in a convent. And my parents gave her kind of the authority to name me, and she gave me my name because it's a simple, strong name from the Bible. Also comes from Adam and Eve, but in Spanish it's Adán y Eva. And so let me just get into the story. You can find it in Matthew 26, chapter 26, verse 6 through 13, and then Mark chapter 14, verse 3 through 9. And then also you can find this story, again, it references it in John chapter 12, verse 1 through 8. Okay. So this chapter, no, sorry. So this story is named The Anointing at Bethany. Sorry, I'm gonna get really thirsty as I read this. Okay. And sorry if my accent changes as I talk. listen to so many people in the US from around the world too. So I pick up on different people's accents unintentionally, and I grew up in the suburbs, so there you go. It'll change. The anointing at Bethany. While Jesus was sharing one of his last meals with followers and friends, a woman entered the room and anointed him with expensive perfume. This extravagant action pointed to Jesus's impending death. Let me read you this section here so that you have a little bit more context. And I'll show you the painting as well. Yeah, I'll show you the painting. This is the painting. Sorry, it's gonna be really fuzzy to see, maybe. I hope not. This is the woman here. This is Jesus right there. And these are just people and maybe the disciples following him. It says, poured on the head a fierce frieze from Saint Mary. I'm gonna get my phone out to see how you exactly pronounce that.
Frieze.
Oh, a frieze. I guess it's a kind of painting. It's really beautiful, actually. I love the burgundy on it. It's 3 very simple colors. It looks like it uses burgundy, orange, and a sagey or mint green color. 3 colors I wouldn't use, but they actually work together really nicely. And it says Saint Mary, the Virgin Church in Oxfordshire, UK, depicts a woman pouring perfume on Jesus's head. The woman is not named by Matthew or Mark, but John names her as Mary, sister of Lazarus. That's found in John 11, chapter 11, verse 2. Okay. It says Jesus and his disciples were staying in Bethany, just outside Jerusalem, 2 days before the Passover. Let me just look up what I want to be right about this. So Passover, it says in the Bible, I can't pronounce this word, I'm sorry, commemorates God's rescuing the Israelites from Egyptian slavery. Angel of death passed over. Homes marked as lamp. No, this is wrong. Yeah, I guess this is what it says. Passover was established when God rescued his people, Israel, from Egypt's slavery. After 9 plagues did not move the Pharaoh to let the Israelites go, the Almighty sent one final plague that provoked the king of Egypt to relent temporarily, free the Israelites. But this is wrong because I think Passover is really when Jesus passes over, because they knew that eventually it was a few days before Jesus was going to be crucified. This is a different Passover that I was referencing and reading to you. Sorry to confuse you. So it says 2 days before the Passover, which is when Jesus was, I'm pretty sure, on the cross and was passing over to the other side. They're invited to go for a meal at the house of a man named Simon. And this is right because the woman was scolded, but you'll understand. The woman was scolded and Jesus defends her because he knew that she was doing it out of the goodness of her heart and honoring him and knowing that he was going to soon be gone for good. Okay, so they were invited to go for a meal at the house of a man named Simon, whose nickname was the Leaper. The Leaper, perhaps because he had once suffered from the skin disease, leper, okay? However, according to John's Gospel, 12, 1 through 8, Bethany was held not at the home of Simon the leper, but at the home of Lazarus, and was attended by Mary and Martha. I remember reading a story for you about Lazarus, and my mind escapes me about what it was. I'll have to look back in a bit. An unexpected interruption. As was customary at the time, Jesus and the other male guests were reclining around the meal table to eat. While they were still at the table, a woman came into the room carrying an alabaster pot containing a very expensive perfumed oil. It would have been highly unusual for an uninvited woman to enter a room while men were eating. The woman moved directly to where Jesus was sitting. She broke the jar open and proceeded to pour all of the luxurious aromatic. It says, I can't pronounce this. I have to look it up. Aromatic. Goodness, why do they use complicated words? Aromatic. Sorry, I should know that. Proceeded to pour all the luxurious aromatic perfume described as nard in Mark's account onto Jesus's head. So she poured a whole jar of this fragrance or perfume out of oil from this jar that she broke onto his head. And that's why this section is called the anointing at Bethany. The other dinner guests were horrified. Some of them included some of Jesus's disciples, began to make angry comments. They knew that nard was so precious that even the small amount in the alabaster pot would have cost more than 300 denarii, which was at least a full year's wages. Instead of being poured over Jesus, they pointed out that the perfume could have been sold and the money used to help the poor. The dinner guests were soon rebuking the woman harshly. Next paragraph, a beautiful action. Then Jesus spoke, causing the other guests to quiet down. Quote, "Leave her alone," end of quote. He said, quote, she has done a beautiful thing to me, end of quote. Mark 14:6. I've never heard Jesus talk about anybody like this, so I felt compelled to read this story because I felt how human he was towards someone and how compassionate he felt towards a human that was trying to honor him for who he really was. And at the same time, defend her and he just felt so human to me, right? That he was defending her and so caring for her. And so that's why I felt so compelled to share this story, because I haven't heard him talk about anybody else like this other than his mother and then God, and then obviously his disciples, but this was different. And so I haven't heard this story before, and I wanted to share this beautiful story and how he spoke to the disciples, defending her, and how he understood the gesture. And so he gave perspective to everybody about what she did, her beautiful action was for him. Far from being wasteful, the woman's extravagant action had been entirely appropriate. By anointing him with perfume, she had prepared him for his burial, which would take place later that same week. So that's why I was reading to you, as they knew that he was going to be crucified soon. After his crucifixion, there would be no time to anoint his body with spices, as was the Jewish custom before. It would have to be put in a tomb. That means right after his death, it would have to be put into a tomb. As for the charge that the perfume should have been sold in aid of the poor, Jesus reminded the dinner guests that they would always have opportunities to help the poor, whereas he would soon be gone. So that was his argument, that he was soon to be gone, and it was her only opportunity to worship the little time that he had left. And so he felt it was appropriate that she was spending a lot of money on him. Quote, "The poor you will always have with you, and you can help them anytime you want, but you will not always have me." End of quote. Mark 14:7. Impending at death. Despite impending death is the next the name of the title of the next paragraph. Despite, sorry. I'm getting a little thirsty. It says, despite Jesus's repeated predictions about his impending death, his disciples had still not understood that he would not be with them much longer. The woman, on the other hand, seemed to know that she needed to express her devotion and love to Jesus now, before it was too late. I guess women are able to, or maybe they were able to comprehend things like this a lot sooner than men. They were maybe more attached to their intuition. Jesus said that wherever the news about him would be, this woman's deed would be remembered as a lasting testament to her actions. I'll read that again because I think that's really interesting. Jesus said that wherever the news about him would be told, this woman's deed would be remembered as a lasting testament to her actions. The woman had taken her opportunity to act for Jesus while he was still alive. So he is saying, in other words, that her actions would last forever, and her story would be told forever. And it was due to the fact that she understood that the limited time that he was here on earth. Jesus was declaring that although her name may not be known, her actions revealed that she had grasped who Jesus was and what he was about to do. And then it says here, just a small quote on the side, it says, "Truly I tell you, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Mark 14:9. I'll read it again. Jim Quick does this, and I really love that he does that. He always repeats himself to make sure that we're paying attention and that we hear him right. So I'm doing that because I really love the fact that he understands that people need to hear things twice. Quote, Jesus says this, quote, "Truly I tell you, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." End of quote. Mark 14:9. I'll tell you a little bit about a couple different things here that I see, or a few different things. I'll show you the spice here of the spikenard that she poured on him. I'll show you what it looks like. That's what it looks like. It looks like small, tiny little flowers with leaves growing from these small branches. It says anointing for burial. Jewish burial tradition was to wash the body, anoint it with spices, and perfume the bind, and then bind it up in cloth, ready for the tomb. Spikenard was an exotic perfume, an earthy aroma. It is also known as musk root, or simply as nard, which is how John's gospel describes it. Quote, "Mary took a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume." That's found in John 12:3. The perfume is distilled from the spikenard plant, which grows around the foothills of the Himalayas. In the ancient world, spikenard was an expensive luxury. The woman's action in anointing Jesus was full of significance, both as a product of his death and a reminder of Jesus' status. I don't know what protent means. I'm going to have to look that up. I should know what that means, and I don't. I don't know if the average person would know what that is. A sign or warning that something, especially something momentous, is likely to happen.
Portent.
Portent. Is a sign, omen, or warning that indicates a significant, usually negative, or event is about to occur. Portent is Latin portenantum, to foretell. It signifies foreshadowing of future, often dire. I don't know if that necessarily is true. Actually, well, I mean, it was his crucifixion, so maybe yes. What else? Okay, so it says a view of Bethany, the biblical village of Bethany is usually identified with the West Bank village, now known as, I wouldn't be able to pronounce that, so I'm not going to even try it. Just over a mile from Jerusalem and home to the traditional site of Lazarus' tomb. This is what it looks like. That's where they would have been. Pretty dry. Okay. Oh, and so this is what probably she may have been holding when she broke the pot that she was holding full of perfume. And these are a few different examples, which is really quite interesting to kind of give you a visual. So those are some examples of the pots that she would probably be using. It's an alabaster vase. And that's what they would look like. I think that was it for the story. I thought it was really a really touching story, really caring story, what this woman did for him. I thought it was also appropriate to show her love for him. I thought it was very bold of her to interrupt a meal and to really honor him by pouring that perfume over his head. You have to be really confident, really brave to do something like that if you know you're presenting yourself in front of Jesus. But I felt like she just seized the moment, as all of us should try doing. So I think she set a good example as that you want to seize the moment, carpe diem. And I thought it was a cute story it was very human, and I really felt like anyone could relate to the story, and that's why I felt compelled to share it. I think that was it for the stories. I think I'm going to save the rest of the book recommendations for this week. I'll look for another story in the Bible tomorrow. I do have Herod that I want to share with you, and then the 12 disciples that I've been meaning to share with you, and as well as the book of Samuel, which is earlier in the Bible. So I think that's going to be coming up this week on the agenda. I don't know that there's anything else, but I do appreciate your time. And yeah, so thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.